"You're not really part of this family," scoffed and said, "but you can watch us open gifts," my parents said. I sat quietly on the couch. An hour later, my cousin handed me an envelope from her dad by mistake. It had $3,000 inside, and a note that said, "For my favorite daughter." I'm 28 years old and just starting to feel the full weight of a lifetime of being treated like an outsider by my own family. During Christmas 2 years ago, my parents outright told me to just watch while the rest of the family opened gifts. I was humiliated, quietly sitting on the couch while my younger brother and everyone else enjoyed lavish presents and laughter. An hour later, my cousin accidentally handed me an envelope meant for her. Inside was $3,000 and a note from her father saying, "For my favorite daughter." It was the most love I've ever felt from anyone in my family. Turns out that moment broke something wide open and uncovered a truth I wasn't ready for. I wasn't adopted. I was an affair baby my dad agreed to raise under one condition: I'd never be truly accepted. Christmas has always been performative in my family. I don't mean just the decorations or the food. It was more like my parents, Stephen and Colette, treated it as a chance to showcase what a pristine, respectable family they were. Every year, our home in Saratoga Springs was the same. Glossy garlands, fake snow around every windowpane, classical music humming through the house like we were trapped in a Pottery Barn catalog. It always smelled like cinnamon and tension. I was the oldest, Rael, named after my mom's dance instructor. It always felt like she resented having to carry a piece of that woman into her own house. My brother Darien, 5 years younger, was the golden boy. He looked like a catalog cutout of Stephen: sharp jaw, dark eyes, thick hair, and the kind of charisma people lean toward at family functions. Me, I was quiet. I read a lot, wrote short stories as a teenager, brought home as without being asked, got a part-time job when I was 16 and kept it until I left for college. I went to Skidmore, not far, but far enough. And I didn't come home for Christmas after age 20, not until 2 years ago. That year, I was guilted into it. My brother had just gotten engaged to Lion, charming, peppy, very into traditions, and my mother insisted it would be a bad look if I didn't show up to support Darien. I didn't want to go, but Marnie, my cousin and one of the only people in the family who treated me like I mattered, convinced me to come. So I got on the train from Albany. I brought homemade cookies, not because I thought anyone would care, but because it felt like the polite thing to do. When I walked into the house, the decorations looked exactly the same as when I was 12. The tree was real but so symmetrical it almost felt artificial. My mom, Colette, greeted me like she was being filmed. "Oh, Rael, you made it," she said, not with warmth but with a kind of surprised obligation, like someone who didn't expect a plus one showing up to a party. Stephen was drinking wine by the fireplace. He gave me a nod and said, "Didn't think you'd come." That was it. No hug, no "how have you been," just that. I found Marnie in the kitchen helping with appetizers. She hugged me the moment she saw me, whispering, "Brace yourself. Nothing's changed." And nothing had. Dinner was polite, quiet. My mom bragged about Darienne's promotion. My dad talked about the renovations they were planning. I cleared the dishes without being asked. No one thanked me. Then, gift time. We all moved to the living room. The tree was surrounded by neat stacks of boxes and shiny ribbon. I didn't see anything with my name on it, but I didn't say anything. Colette clapped her hands and announced, "Darien, start us off." I took a seat on the couch, assuming we'd go around in a circle or something. Instead, she looked at me and said, almost sweetly, "You can sit and watch, since you didn't bring anything for the whole family." "I brought cookies," I said. "Yes," she said. "That was very thoughtful. But you know," she smiled like it was a joke, but no one laughed, and no one spoke up, not even Darien. So I sat. I watched as my brother unwrapped a watch I later Googled and found out cost over $6,000. Lion got jewelry. Even Marnie got a bracelet from her dad, my Uncle Byron. I sat there feeling like furniture. It had been almost an hour when Marnie walked over and handed me a small cream-colored envelope. "Oops," she said. "My dad meant to give this to me. He must have mixed them up. Sorry, here." I opened it. Inside was a bank envelope with a thick wad of cash. I counted it later, $3,000 in $100s. But that wasn't the part that stuck with me. Inside was a card with heavy gold edging and my uncle's handwriting. "To my favorite daughter, Use this however you need. Love, Dad. I stared at it for longer than I should have. It wasn't for me. But it was the warmest message I'd ever received from anyone in my family. I didn't cry. I didn't say anything. I stood up, walked outside to the porch, and stared at the snow-covered yard. Marnie followed me out, looking mortified. I'm sorry, she said. It wasn't for you. I didn't mean to. No, I know, I said. She paused. Honestly, though, maybe it should have been for you. That's when something inside me cracked. Why do they hate me? I asked. Not really to her, but to the sky, the air, whatever was listening. Marnie looked away. I don't know, but I've always wondered. It's like your background to them. I nodded. Back inside, I didn't go to the guest room. I slept on the couch. And the next morning, before anyone else was up, I asked my mom something I'd never said aloud. Was I adopted? She froze while folding napkins for breakfast. Stephen was behind me, carrying his mug of coffee. Colette didn't look up. No, you weren't adopted. Stephen's voice was low. You were an accident. Then Colette added, and you weren't his. Silence. I had an affair, a brief one. I got pregnant. Stephen agreed to stay and raise you. Under certain conditions. What conditions? Stephen finally looked at me. That we never discuss it, and those things remain manageable. You mean don't love me, I said. No answer. I left. I didn't take my bag. I didn't say goodbye. I got on the next train out of Saratoga Springs. It was early, barely past 7 a.m., and the train car was mostly empty. I sat near the window, the envelope still in my coat pocket, hands shaking from a cold that had nothing to do with the snow outside. My phone buzzed a few times, voicemails from my mother, one from Darien. I didn't listen to any of them. Instead, I watched the frost-covered trees blur by. I kept thinking about that moment. You weren't his. The way they said it was like a line rehearsed years ago, like they had both agreed it would be a practical detail, not a life-altering truth. No remorse, just delivery. The train rolled into Albany and I took a cab straight to my apartment. It was small, older, and half my furniture had come from Craigslist or donations from friends. But it felt safe. I threw my coat onto the couch, left the envelope on the counter, and collapsed into bed, fully dressed, the weight of everything catching up to me. I didn't move much for the next 2 days. I ignored the calls, the texts, the emails. I didn't have the energy to explain to anyone why I was feeling so hollow. On the third day, I finally picked up when Marnie called. She didn't ask how I was, she just said, I'm coming down. She showed up 2 hours later with Thai food and a bottle of wine. We sat on my floor eating quietly, not saying much. I asked my dad, she finally said, about the envelope. He told me. He meant it for you. I blinked. What? He said he gave me one too, but the one with the note. That one was for you. I shook my head, confused. Why would he do that? Marnie hesitated. He said he's known something was off your whole life, that even when we were kids, he noticed how differently you were treated, that he's always thought of you as his second daughter. I stared down at my food. He also said, Marnie added, that if you ever needed anything, he wanted you to know you could call him, that he should have said it sooner. That night, I finally cried, not because of the money, not because of the note, but because someone in that family had seen me, really see me. The weeks that followed were weird. I didn't go back to work right away. I used my PTO to stay home and just breathe. I booked a therapy appointment, first one in years. When I told the therapist what had happened, she didn't react with shock, just a quiet nod like she'd seen this kind of wound before. You've been emotionally orphaned, she said gently. It happens more than people think, especially in families where image is more important than connection. That sentence stuck with me. My parents kept trying. Texts like, we never meant to hurt you, and you always had a roof over your head. Colette even sent an email titled, let's not blow this out of proportion. I never replied. Darien called once, just once. Said he didn't know any of it, that he thought we were just different people, and he always assumed I wanted distance. I guess I didn't realize how messed up it really was, he admitted. I'm sorry, Ray, I appreciated it. But it didn't change anything. Uncle Byron started calling more often. Never to pry, never to discuss what had happened unless I brought it up. Mostly he just asked how I was, if I needed help with bills, if I was taking care of myself. I know it's not much, he said once, but I've got a garage full of old furniture if you ever need to furnish a bigger place. I smiled. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to okay. One afternoon, while going through some boxes in my closet, I found an old photograph. It was from a family barbecue when I was about 6. I was sitting on Byron's lap, covered in ketchup, laughing like a goof. Everyone else was looking at the camera with forced smiles, but not us. He was looking at me, and he looked proud. I started keeping that photo in my fridge. I haven't told many people about the not his child revelation. It's not exactly a dinner party topic. But I told my therapist, and eventually I told a friend or two. Each time the words felt easier to say, less like a bomb, more like a scar. That kind of truth doesn't undo itself. You carry it, you shape your life around it, but you don't have to let it define the next 20 years the way it defined the last. I started journaling again, and walking, and slowly letting myself imagine futures that weren't dictated by people who only tolerated me out of social contract. The money Byron gave me, I never spent it. It's still in a drawer. Not because I'm saving it for something, but because it feels sacred. Like proof that once someone chose me, and maybe that's what love is at the end of the day, not genetics, not gifts wrapped in gold foil and ribbons, but the people who choose you when they don't have to. About 6 months after that Christmas, I was walking home from the co-op near my apartment when I ran into Lion, Darienne's fiancé, outside a coffee shop. She was alone, sipping something iced and scribbling in a planner. She spotted me and waved. I thought about pretending I hadn't seen her, but it was too late, so I walked over. "Rail," she said. "Hey, hey." There was an awkward beat before she said, "I heard about everything. I just want you to know I'm sorry. I didn't realize how bad it really was." I gave a stiff smile. Most people don't. She looked genuinely apologetic. "Darienne told me a little, about what your parents said, about the well, everything." I waited for her to ask something probing or to offer some weird platitude, but she didn't. "I know it's not my place," she said instead, "but I think what they did was really cold. Especially at Christmas. I mean, telling someone to just watch the gift opening, that's—" She didn't finish. I nodded. "Yeah." We stood there for a moment, the air thick with all the things that would never be said. Then she added, "He's different now, you know. He's changed a lot. I think he's starting to see them differently too." I appreciated that, but it didn't change the damage already done. A week later, I got an invitation in the mail. Darienne and Lion's wedding, set for that fall at a vineyard in the Hudson Valley. The card was expensive, tastefully embossed, classic gold and cream. No personal note. Just the standard invite. I held it in my hands for a long time, thinking about everything. And then, for the first time in my life, I made a decision that would have terrified me before. I declined. But I didn't just check regretfully decline. I wrote a letter. Not to Darienne, not to Lion, but to my parents. In it I laid out everything. The way they treated me. The way they minimized and excluded and dismissed me for 28 years. I told them I remembered everything. Every time I was the only one not praised. Every birthday party where my gift was an afterthought. Every moment I had to watch someone else be loved. I told them I didn't need their love anymore. I had learned to live without it, but I wasn't going to pretend anymore. I wouldn't play the obedient daughter at weddings or holidays or social events. They could save their performances for someone else. At the end of the letter, I wrote, "I may not have been part of your family, but I am someone's family. And that's more than you'll ever be to me." I mailed it the same day I sent my RSVP declined. 2 weeks later, Uncle Byron called me laughing. "They're furious," he said. "Apparently your letter ruined the family image." I asked if Darienne was mad. "No," Byron said. "He actually said it was overdue." A few months later, I got a call from an old family friend, Mrs. Applegate, my mom's former dance colleague. She wanted to hire me. She had read one of my blog posts about family estrangement. Apparently, it had been shared in one of her online groups. "I had no idea you were such a good writer," she said. I was surprised. "Thank you. I'm putting together a memoir of women who have overcome generational silence. Would you want to contribute?" I said yes. That blog post led to 2 more writing gigs, then speaking on a panel in Albany, then freelance work for a regional publication. Bit by bit, I carved out a voice, one that wasn't timid or shrinking or desperate to be accepted. My therapist said that was the best revenge, building a life rooted in authenticity and agency. But the one that truly satisfied something deep inside, came about a year later. My parents hosted a big anniversary party. Byron told me all about it. He'd gone mostly out of curiosity. Apparently it was very formal, white tents, caterers, string quartet. They had a slideshow of family memories. But when it got to the kids' portion, something strange happened. Slide after slide of Darien growing up. Soccer trophies, first car, graduation, nothing about me, not a single photo. Byron said a few people noticed, whispered, asked Colette where I was. She brushed them off with rails, doing her own thing these days. But then, during the toast, Darien stood up and said, I want to thank my parents for all the support they've given me, and I want to acknowledge someone else who isn't here tonight, but who deserved better from all of us. My sister Rael, if you ever read this, I see you now, and I'm sorry. Byron told me Colette's face turned to stone. Stephen left the table. I never saw the video, but just knowing it happened. That someone in that family, the golden boy, said it aloud in a room full of people who'd spent years pretending I didn't exist. That was my closure.